Okay folks, Suburban Cowgirl here. We are going to attempt a second try here at the cleaning of the M&P 357 Sig. The lighting in the last one sucked, so we are going to do it again. This is the 357 Sig from Smith and Wesson. It's the M&P line, and we are going to safety check it. I'm going to eject the magazine, and it is loaded. As I stated before, the only time you will see us do a safety check is when we are going to take the pistol down. So magazine is ejected, and the round that is inside the chamber is ejected. And for those of you that have never shot a 357 Sig, this is what the round looks like. It's kind of a cut down version of a 40, and it's supposed to have the same power as a 357 Magnum, but in a semi-auto form. So that's the round. It is a lot of fun to shoot. There's a little bit of pop to it, but having a gun this size definitely cuts down on the felt recoil. So that is what she looks like. I'm going to rack the slide a couple of times just to make sure that it's safe, something we do with all of our firearms. Never hurts to err on the side of caution. So in order to take this down the same way that you would any other M&P, we are actually going to take out the tool from the grip. It can be a little bit difficult to get out. You just kind of twist it and pull. I have to use my fingernails a lot of the time. And then we are going to pull the slide back, and we're going to lock it in place with the slide stop right there. Now when you look into the gun, as you can see there's no brass. When you look down into the grip, there's going to be a little S-shaped piece of metal that you're going to want to catch and push down just a little bit. You don't have to use this. The shield actually does not come with this. If you're a girl, a fingernail will work just fine. If not, toothbrush, cleaning rod, anything that you're using, you can push that down with. And then the next thing we're going to do is slide our takedown lever like that until it's straight up and down. We're going to pull back on the slide a little bit while pushing down on the slide stop, and then it'll just come right off like that. So that is your frame, polymer frame. And then the slide itself is going to break down into three pieces. This here is your recoil spring. You're going to just push on that and pull it out, lay that down, and then you can just lift your barrel right out. And what we normally do first is take a fairly dry toothbrush. This one has a little bit of cleaner left on it from some other cleaning that we've done recently. And you're just going to take it, and in all of those little nooks and crannies where dust and grime likes to accumulate, and you are just going to brush that all around there, down where the little springs are. And you just want to make sure that you get off the majority of the dust and anything that you see that might be stuck to it. Sometimes you'll get a big chunk of something. You don't want to get that stuck down in here, and that'll just foul up the pistol and make it either operate poorly or not operate at all. And then your slide, just the metal itself, you're going to take, again, any little nooks and crannies, any little crevices, you're going to brush that out and just try to make sure that, again, you get the majority of it off. We'll go back after it in a minute with some CLP. And then your barrel, right there, those little teeth are, you want to get underneath that. And the barrel itself usually doesn't get too much stuck on it, but you just want to brush off that feed ramp. If that's dirty, you're going to have a problem getting the rounds to load correctly. You're going to get it jammed, double feeds, things like that. That's never good. And the husband is very fond of making sure that that is nice and smooth and there's no problems with it. Springs, you don't normally have to do a whole lot to. That was fun. Okay. You don't really have to do a whole lot to them. Just brush them off. Again, you're not going to get a whole lot of stuff stuck on here. Usually it'll just come off very easily. And then the next thing that we are going to do is to get a cotton swab. Some folks don't like these. They don't like to risk any fuzz getting stuck inside the gun anywhere. Honestly, it's bright white. It's easy. If you see a piece, fluff off, just grab it with your fingers and pull it off. This will get into the creases where some of the brushes and patches really do not like to get. We have two different products. We use Break-Free CLP and the Frog Lube CLP. Both of them are great products. There are other ones out there. These are just two of our favorites. And this is what we started using, and this has come out since we began collecting. So I like this one. It's all natural. It's not harmful to your skin. You can get it on your skin. You know, it's not going to stain your clothing. Also, it's good for the environment, which is always a plus. Non-toxic, and smells really pretty good. So you're just going to get a little bit on the tip of a cotton swab and start with your frame. And we're just going to go around all of these little areas that you brushed around earlier. All of the little dips and valleys. Make sure that you don't have anything, any residue on there. We're not going to go through a real thorough cleaning because nobody wants to sit through 15 minutes of watching that. But you do want to make sure you get it as clean as possible. And we will come back later and lube it, so don't worry about getting a whole lot on there right now. With the slide, again, in the crevices, the nooks and crannies, get down in there and just make sure that you're getting out any dust or debris that you see. Barrel is pretty easy. The outside doesn't get real gooky again. Just go through the little teeth and around any of the edges that you see. Make sure that your feed ramp, again, is nice and clean. And then with the spring, you can take a little CLP and wipe it down. Again, not usually a real bad area as far as buildup is concerned, but it's always good just to go over it real fast. Then, this is God's gift to gun owners. This is a bore snake. These things are fantastic. They work a lot faster and I think are a lot more thorough than just the old patch and rod style cleaners. So with this, you have a few different pieces to it. The piece that's between the cord and these little copper teeth here, that is going to be what you want to put your cleaner on. So you can take this and you want to saturate it pretty well and just make sure that you've got cleaner all in there. As you can see, my hands have got it on there now, so that's pretty well and done. And then there's a little weight, a little brass weight on the front of this. You're going to pick up your barrel, and as if you were pointing it away from you like you were holding your firearm, you are going to drop that brass weight in there and just let it go through. You're only supposed to do this one way. The direction that the bullet is going in is where you want the bore snake to go. So we're just going to take it and pull it through. Those little copper teeth there are going to clean debris out of the barrel. And then the last couple of feet here is meant to wipe and dry. We will usually do this 4 or 5 times. If it's real dirty, you may have to do it more. If you are religious about cleaning your firearms, you may only have to do it a couple of times before you can tell that it's good and clean. And you can always look down the barrel and just make sure that you don't see anything stuck on the inside. This is a good time to inspect the inside of the barrel. Make sure there's no nicks, no scratches, no breaks, anything like that. If there is, you need to go find yourself a good gunsmith. And then this is great, ladies, if you've got an old pair of pantyhose or an old lingerie bag, toss it in there after you've used it a few times and throw it in the laundry, and it'll wash right up. We've had this thing for 2 years now. Okay, and then this is where microfiber cloth comes in. And you can just wipe the outside of the frame off. You can go back in and just make sure that you've gotten all the debris out. You know, just a quick wipe down, and then this is also really good for cleaning up the outside of the gun when you're finished with it. And we will just wipe down the barrel and the spring. And then that is the spring. We're going to go back and we're going to lube it now. And again, you can either use The CLP, it works also as a great lubricant, either one of these, or if you have a special gun oil or lube that you prefer to use, of course, by all means go ahead and do that. With a semi-automatic firearm, problem more often than not is going to be people over-lubricating rather than under-lubricating. If you put too much on there, you're going to have just all sorts of issues with it not wanting to operate because it's going to be too slick. There's not going to be enough friction. So we're going to take the frog lube, because that's what I like to use, on a cotton swab. And any of these parts where metal is rubbing against metal is what you want to take and put a little bit of lube on. Smith and Wesson has a great diagram in the back of their manuals to show you where they think that you need to be putting lubricant. I'm sure most other firearms have a similar thing in their safety manual, so you can look in there or look online if you've lost it. And we're going to put some back here in the dovetails and just in these little shiny parts, and then here on the rails, and you can see where the silver is showing through, and that's where a lot of the wear is going to be. One warning, you do not want to get lubricant way down in here into the trigger assembly. Again, that's just going to cause all sorts of problems and extra fouling that you just don't need to deal with. So that's the frame. And then with the slide, you're going to do the same thing, these little areas, the little rails, and then right in here where you can see some wear from where they've been sliding against the other metal parts. Then the barrel, Smith & Wesson tells you to put it here and here. We normally just put a little bit on the barrel itself anywhere, and then just take our hands and run it down the barrel, and that kind of gets it all nice and lubed up without it being pooling in different areas, because that's just no good. It kind of lets you feel what you're doing. So, alright, and that is pretty much all that needs to be lubed on these. They're fairly easy to maintain firearms. So now what we are going to do is reassemble the firearm. So you're going to take your slide. You're going to point it away from you, just because I think it's easier to get it in this way. So take your slide, and then take your barrel, and you're going to slide it right back in, and it'll go out the front. And there's the business end. Just slide it on back until it seats itself. There's the front of the barrel. Don't freak out, I know it's pointed at you. And then we are going to take the spring and put the spring back in. And Smith & Wesson does a real neat thing where they paint part of the spring a different color. That way you can tell which goes front, which goes back. The painted part will go towards the rear of the slide. And just put that in there. And this little bitty crevice right there on the top of the barrel, right where that tooth is where you want to seat your spring. If the spring is not seated correctly, you'll be able to tell it'll be kind of bent and funky looking, and it will not operate correctly if that's not in the right way. So we're going to take the frame in one hand and the slide in the other, and just slide everything back together. Just make sure it goes where it's supposed to. Whoops. And that happens sometimes. And just slide it back. And as we can see, it's operating smoothly. It's moving the way it's supposed to. It's not hanging. It's not popping off. Usually with these you will know if you do not have it in there correctly. So we're going to take the tool and we're going to put it back into the back. And by the way, that's also what helps to hold the back strap on. These are interchangeable, which is great for people with large hands, people with small hands. They can all use the same pistol. You just change this little puppy. The only one that doesn't do that in this line that I'm aware of is the Shield. Also does not come with that tool. So, alright. And then, if this lever has not popped itself back up, which a lot of times it will when you go to rack the slide, you need to push that back up from the other position. And the little S-hook that's on the inside of here needs to be pushed back up before we can do a function check. If you would like to lock the slide back again and do it manually with a tool, with your finger or whatever, you can do that. It's not necessary. If you happen to have an empty magazine sitting next to you, you can actually just pop that magazine in and it'll push that little hook back up, and that way you don't have to worry about sticking your hand down in there again. So, as we've seen, Gun is empty, magazine is empty. Push that back up there. Our hook is back up, and now we're going to do a quick function check. So, what we're going to do, point it in a safe direction even though we know that it's empty, and we're going to pull the trigger, and it works. I'm going to cycle it again because without there being a round in there, it's not going to cycle itself. And we're going to pull the trigger again. Pull the slide. Hear the reset. Pull it again. And everything is good to go. So she is now ready to be wiped off and then reloaded. And although you don't necessarily have to worry about the finish on these guns nearly as much as you did the old blued finishes, you know, you still don't want a whole lot of oil lying around on it because you don't want to grab it and then it slip out of your hands at a crucial moment. So that is the disassembly, cleaning, and reassembly of the M&P 357 SIG. If you have any questions, please go ahead and comment on this video, or you can catch up to us on Facebook at the Suburban Cowgirl Guns and Greens, or if you'd like to, you can shoot us a message on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe, and if there's anything else that you would like to see in the future, let us know. Thanks!